Okay, so you're here, you're listening to the deep dive, and that probably means you want to get into some deep stuff, right? I mean, you want to really understand things, but maybe you don't have a ton of time to wade through all the noise, all the
Yeah,
fluff, right?
exactly. It's about efficiency, getting to the core of what matters.
Totally. And something we've heard a lot from you guys, from you listeners, is this feeling of wanting to speak English more confidently,
Yeah.
especially when you're maybe feeling a bit shy or a bit hesitant.
Uh-huh.
So we asked you for some resources, some articles, some books, whatever you're looking at that addresses this, and you guys sent some amazing stuff.
Oh, yeah, some great stuff.
So today, that's our deep dive.
Uh-huh.
We're going to extract the most effective, the practical techniques to help you move past that fear
Right.
and really start speaking English with more assurance.
It's about finding your voice right.
Exactly.
Being able to express yourself naturally without being held back by, maybe worries about making mistakes or how other people are going to perceive you.
Yeah.
So we've gone through all the resources you sent in.
Yeah.
And we're going to pull out the actionable steps, the clear path
Uh-huh.
to building that speaking confidence.
All right, so let's jump in.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's get into the nitty-gritty of this.
Uh-huh.
Why does the idea of speaking English feel so daunting sometimes?
Right. It can be really intimidating.
Totally. And your material highlights a couple of key factors that really contribute to this nervousness.
Uh-huh.
And the first one, and I think everyone listening has felt this at some point, the first one is the fear of making mistakes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like using the wrong word, the wrong grammar.
Right.
That feeling of oh no, I sound incorrect.
And that can be so embarrassing.
Totally. But
Yeah.
but what's interesting is that, and your sources kind of point this out,
Mm-hmm.
when you're learning a language, it's an exploratory process.
Right.
It's you're experimenting, you're trying new sounds, new sentence structures,
Yeah.
and those errors, those quote unquote errors, are actually valuable feedback.
Yeah.
They're showing you where your understanding can grow.
Absolutely. It's like a scientist in the lab, right?
Exactly.
Not every experiment is going to be a success, but you learn something from every single one.
Totally. You get data.
And I love that analogy
Yeah.
because it really is like you're experimenting, you're figuring it out.
Uh-huh.
The second big reason, and this is a big one,
Yeah.
is that fear of being judged.
Oh, yeah.
Worrying about your accent, your pronunciation,
Right, how you sound.
word choice.
Uh-huh.
It's like you're putting yourself out there,
You're vulnerable.
so vulnerable.
Yeah.
And it's even more so, I think, when you're doing it in a language that's not your native tongue.
Right.
It's like you're on a stage, right?
Exactly. So all eyes are on you.
Totally.
And that feeling can be really, really powerful.
Yeah.
But think about it this way.
Mm-hmm.
When you're listening to somebody speak,
Yeah.
aren't you mainly focused on trying to understand what they're saying? Totally. Yeah.
Most people are much more interested in the content,
Right.
what you're actually trying to say,
Yeah.
than picking apart your grammar
Right.
or, analyzing your accent.
And I think also
Yeah.
there's this element of admiration.
I think so, too.
When someone's making the effort to communicate in another language,
Oh, yeah,
it's like, wow, you're putting yourself out there.
You're trying.
You're trying. And that's awesome.
Uh-huh.
But your sources also rightly point out
Yeah.
that a lack of practice and exposure
Right.
really contributes to this nervousness.
Oh, for sure.
It's you can't bake a cake without having ever touched the ingredients.
Right. You need to get your hands dirty.
Exactly.
You need to get in there and actually practice.
And the more you practice, the more comfortable you become.
Familiarity breeds comfort, right?
Totally.
The less you engage with the language, the more intimidating it seems.
Yeah, like anything else, right? The more you do it, the easier it gets.
Exactly. And that's why consistent practice is so important.
Even in small amounts.
Yeah.
So you listening right now,
Yeah.
it's so important to remember
Uh-huh.
that feeling nervous is normal.
Totally normal.
You are not alone in this.
Everyone feels this way.
Everyone learning a new language has gone through this.
Even those people who seem perfectly fluent,
Right.
they've been there.
They've been there. They've been in your shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And your material makes this really crucial point.
What's that?
Making mistakes, it's not a setback. It's part of the process.
It's how you learn.
It's how you learn.
You have to make mistakes to improve.
And what's interesting is that
Yeah.
even native English speakers make mistakes all the time.
Oh, all the time.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Grammatical errors, we all make the mispronunciations, choosing the wrong word.
Uh-huh. It happens to everyone.
It happens.
Yeah.
But for native speakers, it doesn't carry that same weight.
Right. They don't feel self-conscious about it, usually.
Exactly.
Don't brag?
They just keep talking.
Yeah.
And the sources really drive home this idea that
Yeah.
people generally admire those who try to communicate, even with those imperfections.
Much more than those who just stay silent out of fear.
Right. Like, think about it in your own life.
Yeah.
Who do you connect with more?
Oh,
Someone
wow.
who's making the effort to talk to you.
Even if your grammar isn't perfect.
Even if it's a little bit broken, or
Yeah.
someone who just doesn't say anything.
It's about the effort, right?
It's about the effort.
The willingness to communicate.
Totally. And what's interesting, too, is what are you potentially missing out on?
That's a good question.
By staying silent,
Yeah.
yeah, you might avoid that temporary discomfort of a mistake,
Uh-huh.
but you're also missing opportunities to connect, to learn, to grow.
Actually experience new things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've gotten a good understanding now of like why this fear arises. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about how to actually start overcoming that shyness, that hesitation.
Okay, good.
And your sources offer some really practical first steps.
Uh-huh.
And I love this idea of starting small,
Yes.
practicing in low-pressure environments.
Right.
It's all about those small steps.
Totally manageable steps.
Yeah.
You don't have to jump into the deep end right away.
No,
Start with something simple.
totally. So your material suggests starting with solo practice.
Okay.
And this could be as simple as like talking to yourself in the mirror.
Right.
Describing what you're doing throughout the day.
Just get comfortable hearing your own voice.
Yeah.
Speaking the language.
And even just thinking in English.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Just getting your brain used to formulating those thoughts.
Yeah, it's like a warm-up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A mental warm-up.
And then the next logical step
Mm-hmm.
is to find someone you feel safe and supported by.
Okay.
A friend, a family member.
Right. Someone who understands.
Who understands your journey.
Yeah. And who's going to be patient with you.
Right. Someone who's not going to judge you.
Exactly.
And that can really take the pressure off.
And it creates this like positive feedback loop, right?
Correct.
You're practicing, you're getting encouragement,
Yeah,
and that builds your confidence
Yeah.
for when you have to speak to people you don't know as well.
exactly.
Uh-huh.
And the sources also advise starting with simple phrases,
Yeah.
and gradually increasing that complexity.
Little by little.
Little by little.
Right.
You don't have to jump into like complex discussions right away.
No, start with the basics.
Start with the basics,
Uh-huh.
like greetings,
Yeah.
asking simple questions,
No.
talking about your hobbies or your routine.
Like, what did you do today? Or what do you enjoy doing in your free time?
And your sources actually give some great examples.
Yeah.
Like, how was your day? Or, I like reading books.
Right? Just simple things like that.
Just simple ways to start a conversation.
Yeah. To keep it going.
To keep it going and to keep it low stakes.
Exactly.
Right.
Low pressure.
Low pressure.
Okay.
And this next point from your sources is so key.
Okay.
It's about shifting your perspective.
Oh, interesting.
From speaking as a test
Oh.
with a pass or fail outcome
Right.
to seeing it as a conversation,
Okay.
as communication.
I like that.
Yeah. And that mental shift alone can be huge.
Because a test implies judgment.
Right.
Like you're being evaluated.
Right.
Whereas a conversation is just an exchange.
Yeah.
It's about connecting with another person.
And it takes the pressure off of being perfect.
Exactly. The emphasis shifts from perfect delivery
Right.
to just communicating your ideas.
And effectively, yeah.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, and your sources highlight this, the
Oh,
person
yeah.
you're speaking with,
Yeah.
they care way more about understanding your message
Right.
than whether your grammar is absolutely perfect.
Exactly. If they get what you're trying to say,
Yeah.
that's a win.
That's a win. That's success.
So it's about prioritizing clarity and comprehension.
Yes. Make yourself understood.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
And grammatical accuracy is important.
Of course.
But it shouldn't be the thing that holds you back
Right.
from speaking in the first place.
It's a tool, not a barrier.
Totally.
Uh-huh.
All right, so we've talked about understanding the fear.
Yeah.
We've talked about taking those initial steps
Okay.
to ease into speaking.
Good.
Now let's get into some concrete techniques.
Right. The practical stuff.
To actually build that speaking confidence.
Yeah.
And your material mentions this technique called shadowing.
Oh, shadowing is great.
So tell me a little bit about that. How does that work?
So basically, you listen to a native English speaker.
Okay.
And this could be anything. It could be a podcast like this.
Uh-huh.
It could be a news broadcast and movie.
Right.
And you repeat what they're saying immediately.
Trying to copy their pronunciation, their intonation.
Oh, so it's not just about the words.
No, it's about the way they say it.
The whole package.
Exactly. The rhythm, the music of the language.
So what are the benefits of that?
Well, It trains your ear to hear those subtle nuances
Okay.
of English sounds.
Right.
And it also gets your mouth used to making those sounds.
Mm-hmm.
So it improves your pronunciation and your fluency.
Yeah.
It makes you sound more natural.
Like a musician practicing scales.
Exactly like that.
Right.
You're training your muscles,
Totally.
your vocal muscles.
Okay, another technique you mentioned is recording yourself
Oh, yeah.
speaking English, which I imagine for some people can be a little bit...
Nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
Yeah. It can feel a little weird at first,
Totally.
but it's a really good way to assess yourself.
Okay.
Because when you listen back,
Yeah.
you hear things you might not have noticed while you were speaking.
Like what kind of things?
Maybe you mispronounce a certain sound,
Right.
or you pause a lot in certain situations.
Uh-huh.
That gives you that objective perspective.
So it's about becoming aware of your habits,
Exactly.
and then you can work on those specific areas.
Pinpoint where you need to improve.
And your sources also talk about the importance of daily speaking practice.
Oh, absolutely.
Even if it's just for 5 or 10 minutes?
Yeah, little and often is the key.
That seems doable, right?
Totally anyone can find 5 minutes in their day.
Totally. And what kind of activities can you do during those short sessions?
Well, you could talk about your day,
Mm-hmm.
describe your surroundings.
Yeah, like just narrate your life a little bit.
Exactly.
Just get those words flowing.
Yeah, get comfortable speaking spontaneously.
And the last technique that your material highlights is joining English-speaking groups or online communities.
Oh, yeah, finding people to practice with.
Yeah, and they even mention specifically Toastmasters.
Toastmasters is great.
Which is for public speaking.
Uh-huh.
And this is all about, like, finding those opportunities to actually speak with others.
Right, to get out of your comfort zone a little.
Yeah, and to get that real-world feedback.
Yeah, because you can practice on your own, but ultimately you need to use the language with other people.
Right, and that's where the real growth happens.
That's where the magic happens.
Okay, so we've talked about some really concrete techniques.
Yeah.
But a huge part of confidence, maybe the foundation of it,
Right. Yeah.
comes from our mindset.
Our attitude, our internal state.
Exactly. And your sources touch on some really crucial mindset shifts.
Okay. I'm interested to hear this.
The first one is accepting that feeling uncomfortable initially is natural
Yeah.
and even necessary.
Luckily.
It's like you have to be willing to step outside of that comfort zone.
Because that's where the growth happens.
So yeah,
Right.
right.
You're not going to learn anything new if you stay where you're comfortable.
And feeling a little bit awkward
Yeah.
when you first start speaking English, it's not only normal, it's a good sign.
It means you're challenging yourself.
You're pushing yourself.
You're learning.
Exactly. And the really encouraging part is that the more you do it,
Yeah.
the easier it becomes.
The discomfort fades away
Right.
as you become more proficient.
It's like learning to ride a bike.
Exactly. It's wobbly at first.
Yeah, you're going to fall a few times.
But eventually you get it.
You get it.
And you don't even think about it anymore.
Exactly. And it's so important to be patient with yourself.
Yes, be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
It's a process.
And progress isn't always linear.
No, there will be ups and downs.
You know, some days you're going to feel great, some days you're not.
Yeah.
But the overall trend will be upward.
If you keep practicing.
If you keep practicing.
Yeah.
And the next really big mindset shift that your sources point to is focusing on progress rather than perfection.
Yes, perfectionism, the enemy of progress.
Right, because if you're constantly trying to be perfect,
Uh-huh.
you're never going to speak.
You'll be too afraid to make a mistake.
Exactly. So instead, focus on how much you've improved.
Celebrate those small victories.
Yeah. Like, what are some examples from your sources?
Well, like ordering a meal in English. Or introducing yourself to someone new.
Yeah. Those are wins.
Those are wins.
You did it.
Yeah, and you should feel good about it.
Exactly. And it's equally important to reframe mistakes
Oh, yeah.
as opportunities to learn.
Mistakes are our teachers.
They are.
They show us where we need to grow.
So rather than seeing them as failures, see them as feedback.
Exactly. Valuable feedback.
Valuable feedback.
Yeah.
All right. And finally,
Okay.
your sources highlight the power of positive self-talk.
Oh, that's so important.
That inner dialogue that we have with ourselves.
Yeah, the voice in our head.
It has a huge impact on our confidence.
It really does.
So what do your sources say about that?
Well, they say that if you're constantly telling yourself,
Yeah.
I'm bad at English, or I'm just going to make mistakes, it's going to be much harder to feel confident.
Right, because you're already setting yourself up for failure.
Exactly. You're creating a self-fulfilling prophecy.
So instead of saying those negative things,
Yeah.
what do they suggest we say?
Well, they give this great example of shifting from
Yeah.
I'm bad at English
Hmm.
to I'm improving my English every day.
I love that.
It's a small change,
Yeah.
but it can make a big difference.
It changes your whole outlook.
It really does.
It's about being your own cheerleader.
Yeah, instead of your own worst critic,
Exactly.
be kind to yourself.
And ultimately,
Yeah.
your sources conclude that
Mhm.
confidence starts with that internal dialogue.
With what you tell yourself.
Exactly. If you believe in your ability to improve,
Uh-huh.
you're more likely to actually do it.
You're more likely to put in the effort.
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy in a positive way.
Exactly. You create that positive feedback loop.
Yeah.
You believe you can do it, so you try harder and you make more progress.
And that reinforces the belief.
And that makes you even more confident.
Totally.
It's a beautiful cycle.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
We've explored some really valuable insights.
Uh-huh.
Now, how can you, the listener,
Yeah.
actually take all of this and put it into action?
That's the big question, right?
Right.
How do we apply this to our lives?
And your sources offer some really concrete suggestions.
Okay, great.
The first one is to set a small, achievable daily speaking goal.
Okay.
Maybe just start with speaking for 2 minutes about your day.
2 minutes. That's easy.
That's easy, right?
Anyone can do that.
And it's all about making it small and specific.
Right. So you actually do it
So you actually do it.
instead of feeling overwhelmed.
Right. And then once you've got that habit,
Yeah.
you can gradually increase it
Little by little.
little by little.
Huh.
Another really practical suggestion is to surround yourself with the English language.
Oh, yeah. Immersion.
Immersion.
Right.
Listen to music.
Watch movies.
Read books.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're not in an English-speaking country,
Create that environment for yourself.
create that environment, and it's almost like you're passively absorbing the language.
Yeah, you pick it up without even realizing it.
Right. And finally, your sources challenge the listener
Okay.
to seek out real-life opportunities to practice,
Uh-huh.
even if it feels a little scary at
You
first.
put yourself out there.
Put yourself out there.
Yeah.
So simple things like ordering coffee in English.
Asking for directions.
Yeah.
They like
And
to-
those everyday interactions,
Well-
while they might feel a little nerve-wracking at first,
Yeah.
they provide such valuable practice.
Real world practice.
Yeah.
And each successful interaction builds your confidence.
You're like, yes, I did it.
Yeah, one step at a time.
One step at a time.
Yeah.
So to wrap it all up,
Yeah.
developing confident English-speaking skills,
Mm-hmm.
it's a journey.
It's not a destination.
It's not something you achieve overnight.
It takes time and effort.
And there will be ups and downs.
For sure.
But the most important thing is to start
Yeah, to take that first step.
and to keep practicing.
And to enjoy the process.
to enjoy the process, because
Yeah.
it's about more than just speaking English.
Right.
It's about personal growth.
It's about pushing yourself.
It's about broadening your horizons.
It's about connecting with other people.
Exactly. So
Mhm.
considering everything we've talked about today,
Yeah.
the techniques, the mindset shifts,
Uh-huh.
what small speaking goal
Right.
are you going to set for yourself today?
That's the question.
And how might pushing yourself in this area
Yeah.
lead to growth in other areas of your life?
It's all connected, Ray.
It's all connected.
Yeah.
It's definitely something to think about.
Some food for thought.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been fun.
We'll see you next time.
See you later.
Bye.